Happy Friday and go Gators! Go ahead and write down your bell ringer. Today is August 23rd. Give you a couple minutes. All right, if you need more time, please just let Miss Drummond know to pause it so that you can finish writing. I'm going to go over the questions and the answers. Number one says, Rachel Carson described which of the following problems to Americans? So hopefully you were able to pick this out from yesterday's lecture. The answer is A, pesticide bioaccumulation and poisoning. And number two, a person who believes in protecting nature because all life forms deserve respect and consideration is called. And the answer is C, a biocentric preservationist. So go ahead and get those down. While you're finishing that up, don't forget next Wednesday you have your Chapter 2 quiz along with your review questions that are due. Alrighty. So I'm going to move on to the economics portion. You may or may have not written this down yesterday, I can't remember. But here. For the remainder of the chapter, we're going to talk about economics, and you probably wrote down the definition, study of how people use limited resources to satisfy unlimited wants. What you need to know is that economics is utilitarian, meaning that it's going to have some usefulness. We said a utilitarian conservationist the other day, someone who conserves resources because they're useful. In economics, everything has a value and can be converted to a current currency. So all of our raw materials have a value for money, an exchange of money. And economics is going to be efficient. And we can say efficiency is when multiple individuals are getting the greatest amount of goods and resources from a limited set. So that's what it means to be efficient. For an example, you have business A that builds 9 cars. In a given amount of time, business B is going to build 10 cars. In this example, we could say that business B is more efficient. You need to know your sources and sinks. So if you look at this diagram, we have our natural capita on the left. Use my pointer. It says sources are the part of the environment from which materials move. And there we have raw materials. So sources are places where we get materials from. In this example, it'd be like a forest or trees. So we're going to use lumber. That raw material is going to go into the economy. It's going to be produced or made into products, and then there's going to be some money exchange for that product. And so we're going to have this economy. Products and money flow between production and consumption. After that product is consumed, it's going to go to its sink. So that waste product is going to go to its final resting place, and sinks are part of the environment that receives input of materials. We're going to talk about sinks in a different respect later on in the year. I want you to think of some examples of sinks for other things in the environment. For example, carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a gas. We know it comes from the combustion of many things, the burning. So it comes from cell respiration. And so carbon, or CO2, is stored in certain areas in our environment. One of the first things that you probably think of is that carbon is stored in trees. So that's a good example of a carbon sink. Trees go through the process of photosynthesis. They take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. And trees can live for hundreds of years. So those are carbon sinks. Another example of a carbon sink would be the ocean. More than 50% of the carbon dioxide that is put into the atmosphere is absorbed by the ocean. So the number one carbon sink for carbon dioxide would be the ocean. And we'll talk later on about how that is causing ocean acidification, how it's impacting our coral reefs. Okay, externalities. I'm going to let you write, and then I will discuss. Definition from your textbook: when the producer of a good or service does not have to pay the full cost of production, or in other words, the cost that a transaction or activity imposes on a party that is not part of the transaction or activity. Sounds kind of confusing, but I'm going to give you lots of examples of externalities. Kind of get you thinking. Think about the word external. What does external mean? And we can contrast that with internal. So external, outside, internal, probably inside of whatever we're talking about. And they can be negative or positive, but we're going to focus on negative externalities because we're going to focus on problems in the environment. But there can be positive externalities that we'll discuss as well. So your book gives you an example, and I'm going to give you a bunch, but your book gives you an example. So we have two businesses that are side by side. You can see on the left, that's the drip dry laundry. And then on the right, we have a blacksmith shop. So for our business, for our blacksmith shop, we're going to say Pierre. Yep, I see you, Pierre. Front left. Pierre, you are going to own a blacksmith shop. Pierre, what are you going to make in your blacksmith shop? Oh, swords, great. Okay, good. So you're going to be making swords. And then we have Lindsay right in the front over here, who owns, we'll say, a drip dry laundry. And both of these businesses are right next door to each other. We're going to say Lindsay charges $2 a shirt. And Tony comes and brings his shirt over to Lindsay and says, "Can you wash this and hang this and I'll pay you $2?" And she says, "Sure." But what happens is that Pierre's blacksmith shop is polluting the atmosphere. In fact, it's polluting this like soot and dust and ash that's going into the atmosphere, and it's falling onto the drip dry laundry, onto the shirts. And Lindsay's like, "Yo, Pierre, can you like not pollute? Because it's costing me money to have to rewash the shirt." And Pierre's like, "No." And so what's happening is that now we have Lindsay who is rewashing the shirt, and she is absorbing what the negative externality is. She's having to pay for this externality because we're going to say Tony is only spending $2. And if this happens over an entire year, it costs Lindsay $500 to rewash people's shirts and then to give them back. So she is paying a $500 externality, and it's costing her a lot of money. Now, economics says that basically we should have Pierre pay. Somehow it should be regulated that Pierre is going to have to pay, or somehow fix this situation, make it nice and clear cut. So Lindsay says to Pierre, these are your options. Number one, you can close your shop. It's going to cost you $10,000. Number two, you can get like some type of air pollution control device. It's going to be $200. Or you can pay for me to rewash my laundry for $500. And Pierre's like, oh man, I guess I have to be efficient. So instead, he is going to use an air pollution control device. And so that means that he is going to internalize that externality. That $200 is going to be the cost that he has to pay in order for her to not have to pay to rewash the laundry. Also, I guess she could say, well, I'm going to up the price of my shirts, the cost of washing and drying them. So instead of $2, I'm going to charge $4 because I have to rewash them. So the externality here is the cost of having to rewash the shirts. And who is going to have to pay for that cost? Is it going to be Lindsay? Is it going to be the consumer, who's Tony? Or is it going to be the blacksmith shop owner? So this would be an example of a negative externality. All right, so go ahead and write down your definition of internal cost. This is the cost that a business bases its price on. So this is the cost to the business itself. It could be the cost of the materials to make something, the cost of energy, the cost of like paying the employees, the actual equipment, the overheads. So I'm going to give you an example of a pen. I love pens. I'm obsessed with them. My favorite one, those those new Bic ones. I'll show you on Monday. Let's say we have a pen company. I should have put a picture of the pen up here. We have this pen company. And we're going to say that Alex over here produces my favorite Papermate Bic pen. And he has to pay for the actual pen itself. He's going to pay for the ink. He's going to pay for the plastic. He's going to pay for the, I don't know, every little part of it, the people to make it, the machines that make it. So if he's the owner of this pen company, his internal costs are all of the things I just said. This pen company happens to be near a neighborhood. All students in 7th period live around the pen company, or the factory itself. And the factory pollutes all the CO2 in the atmosphere, all these really harmful gases, even other than CO2. Some of these are cancer causing, cause asthma, all these gases into the atmosphere. Let's say most of the people in the neighborhood, they don't even use pens. They don't like pens, they use pencils. They have some like thing against pens. And so they're all using pencils. So they're not involved in any way with the transaction of this pen, the production of it. They don't like pens, they're not buying them. And those pens, honestly, they're like really expensive. They're like $5. So those pens, we're going to say Alex sells for $5. But because in the production of the pen, there's all this pollution, the people are getting really sick that live around the pen company. And they're all coughing, and now they have these weird like diseases and asthma. And so the negative externality here, you should think about it, take a second, would be what? What is the negative externality in the situation? And who are the people who are having to deal with the negative externality? Who does it affect? So take a second and think about it. Even jot it down on your paper. So the negative externality is on all of the people who live around the pen company. Could we put that into a dollar sign is the question. How could we quantify it monetarily? How can we make it into money? Think about that. So something we can do is we could say the health care for all the people who live in the area. That's the external cost and a monetary value. Maybe they have to increase their health insurance. Maybe some people have to get these special medications that cost money. So that right there is the external cost. The external cost is the money that people are having to pay for their health. Now, environmentalists want Alex, who owns a pen company, to somehow pay for that cost or to internalize that cost. But it's difficult to do. It's difficult to make, companies internalize that external cost. Because how are we going to quantify all of the problems that people are having? We could even say it on a bigger scale, pollution. So all of the pollution that's going into the atmosphere, that's the external cost of the pen. Is the real price of the pen $5? No. Because it's not including the cost to society, the cost to the healthcare for the people who live near the pen company. So maybe the cost of that pen is truly $10. Maybe it's $20. So that company is not paying that external cost. It is impacting and it is affecting everybody else. Let's look at some examples. What is a negative externality of an SUV? Well, first of all, I don't think they make these anymore. It's a Hummer, really big SUV. We could also say, what's the internal cost of the SUV? The internal cost, if this was my car, if I drove a yellow Hummer, the internal cost would be the price of the car. I don't know how much they are. I'm just going to guess, $50,000. That would be the internal cost. Internal cost to me would be changing the oil, updating the tires, I don't know, putting washer fluid in the windshield wipers, stuff like that. That would be the internal cost. Now, what is the cost to society of me driving this Hummer? Well, we could say the air pollution, because we kind of use that with the pen company. We could say the traffic maybe on the roads, because I'm not using public transportation. We could say the wear and tear on the roads. Maybe by me driving, I'm making all these potholes. And so the people who drive behind me and I make these potholes, their tire pops. And so they're having to deal with the negative externality. So they have to get a new tire, the cost of their new tire. Chewing gum. What's our internal cost of chewing gum? Internal cost of chewing gum is the price of the gum. I don't know, $3. Maybe internal cost is that that girl with this pink lipstick is going to get cavities and then have to pay for that at some point from chewing the gum. Now, what's the external cost? Well, you know, put the gum in the garbage, you litter, and someone steps in the gum. So the external cost is to that person who stepped in the gum, and the cost to them doesn't always have to be monetary. It could be that it's just disgusting, or it could be that every time they walk now, their foot gets stuck to the floor. So that could be the external cost that they're having to deal with. It could be that they have to buy new shoes now. So the cost of new shoes would be the external cost. Smoking. Internal cost of smoking is the price of a pack of cigarettes. I don't even know how much they are. $10? The external cost, let's look at this picture here. Here we have a pregnant woman. The external cost now is not even to her, it's for the baby. So this child now is having to, maybe will have health effects. Something could possibly hurt the baby from breathing, from the mother breathing in this smoke, this secondhand smoke. So it's hard to quantify. I mean, maybe the child will have some heart problems. And so now the cost is the heart problems, or if we want to monetarily say it, the cost of the hospital stay. Or it could be that the mom now also has some problems, like cancer or something from breathing this in. So she has to pay for cancer drugs. I think you're getting the hang of it at this point. Here we have a school. Kids playing outside on the football field, practicing, getting ready for a game. We have like an oil refinery in the background or something back there. And the internal cost for that company would be, you know, the actual, whatever they're burning, the building. External cost is to all the people who are playing on the field. Here we go again. We have somebody here who, it seems like it's loud. Let's see. So when I was in college, I will tell you that there were times when I was trying to go to bed. I was very studious and I wanted to get a good grade the next day on my test, or I wanted to be super excited to go to class early in the morning. Then there were some people in the apartment or the dorm that were up late, probably doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And so they were, say, having a party, you know, drinking juice and eating chips. And so what happened here is that they have the internal cost for their party. They paid for the chips, they paid for the soda, they paid for, I don't know, the boombox that plays music. I know, boombox. Now I had to hear it, and so the external cost is now on me. To think about the cost to me. What did it cost me? The external cost. So maybe my grades, my sleep, my sanity, maybe. I want them to internalize that cost. I want them to somehow pay me for what they did. Vaccines. Think about this for a second. Is this an internal cost or an external, or sorry, is this a negative cost, external cost, or a positive external cost? We have vaccine. So we have positive ones. You wrote that down in your definition. So a vaccine is going to be a positive external cost. So they are going to get the vaccine, and it's going to benefit everybody else in the school or in the workplace or wherever it is. We're going to stop the spread of disease. Another great example of a positive externality would be hygiene. Let's say that, you know, coal He showers every day. Thank you, Cole, for showering. I mean, he could not shower. He could just like wake up later and come to school and not shower ever, never put deodorant on. But he does. And so now that's going to benefit all of us. So there's a cost to him. Like, I guess he could have woke up later. But we all benefit from that. And I just thought that this was interesting. It says it's pretty amazing that our society has reached a point where the effort necessary to extract oil from the ground, ship to a refinery, turn it into plastic, shape it appropriately, truck it to a store, buy it, and bring it home is considered to be less effort than what it takes to wash the spoon. So think about the external cost of you using a plastic spoon. You're like, oh, I'm just going to use this plastic spoon so I can just throw it out because I'm lazy. Your internal cost would be the cost of the spoon, but all of these externalities from you using the spoon. So what does this remind you of? Yep, you got it. Tragedy of the commons. So negative externalities drive tragedy of the commons. They are super interrelated, so it may sound similar when we talk about examples. You don't have to write this down. Some more. If you're walking, costs you $1, society pays, I don't know, 1 cent. Maybe because like someone has to stop at a traffic light to let you pass. Cost to them. If you bike, costs you $1, society pays 8 cents. Maybe you're on the road with them, and so like they have to be careful. Doesn't always have to be money. Business costs you, busing costs you $1. Society pays $1.50. Now you're causing traffic on the road, and you know those buses air pollute. If your driving costs $1, society pays almost $10. A lot of externalities associated with that. Air pollution, traffic jams, car accidents, potholes, all that good stuff. All right, I'm going to go through a couple more slides with you. We have, we're going to look at some graphs. I advise that you write these graphs down and that you label them and that you truly understand them. So the first one that we have is the marginal cost of pollution. And I'll let you write it down. I really am urging you to copy the graph down because you're probably going to see this, if not have to do it on a short response. Explain it, draw it, whatever, but also on the multiple choice other quiz. All right, so we have the marginal cost of pollution. The marginal cost of pollution, if you look at the graph, hopefully you're able to understand, means that as you pollute more, the cost of damage, this is in dollars, is higher. So the more pollution, the more cost and damage. Pretty simple, nothing crazy here. So we can give you an example of cars. If we have one car, maybe over here, our pollution is low. But as we start to increase the number of cars that are polluting, the cost and damage is going to increase. Pretty easy. It's identified by the amount of damage to health, property, agriculture, and aesthetics. Honestly, it's really hard to come up with this number. As the level of pollution rises, the cost is going to increase. The more pollution, the more costs and damage, right? You can even say on an individual level, say I drive like this Prius, or I drive some type of hybrid, polluting low, and I go and buy another car, like just a regular car, I'm polluting a little bit more, costing more. Then I go buy that yellow Hummer, and it's gonna cost more. And then I decide that I'm gonna drive around in like a huge bus, like an old bus, polluting more. It's gonna cost more. I think we're good with that, right? The marginal cost of pollution abatement. What this says, and take a second to try and read it. I'm going to give you a minute to think about what it's actually representing. What the marginal cost of a pollution abatement, first of all, the word abatement means to stop or to slow pollution. So this is saying the cost to stop polluting. That's like what the title of this graph really is. The cost to stop polluting. What it's saying is that it is going to cost more to pollute less. I know I'm reading it kind of odd if you look at it. So it's going to cost us more to pollute less. You're going to pollute less, it's going to cost more. I wish I could draw here. If I could put a little line right here, polluting pretty high, it's not costing a lot to control that pollution. I'm going to pollute less if I want to, it's going to cost me more. To give you an opposite example of the car. Say I drive a Hummer, really caring about the environment. Here I am polluting a lot. It's not costing me a whole lot to reduce my pollution. Then I decide that I want to, really be environmentally friendly, so I go ahead and I buy that hybrid car. So it's going to cost me something, like I have to go buy a new car, but I'll be polluting less. Let's say I'm super duper into the environment, love AP Enviro, love 7th period. I decide, you know what? I'm not even going to drive a car anymore. Instead, I am going to carpool to school. So I'm going to be polluting less. It's going to cost me more. Now, I know it says in dollars, but this situation isn't really going to cost me more in dollars. If I'm going to carpool, it's going to cost me more in time. So it's going to cost me, I don't know, I have to wait for my friend to come get me. Then they like to stay late after school, costing my time. Then again, I'm like, you know what, I can't even ride in a car anymore. I'm so environmentally friendly, I'm going to pollute even less. Then the price really goes, or the cost really goes up. Now I'm going to walk to school. The price is that I have to wake up at 3 in the morning to get to school. So this is saying it's going to cost more to pollute less. And here's your definition. As you're writing this, on Monday, you will have a small quiz based on watching today's lecture. So please make sure that you paid attention, you wrote good notes. If you need Miss Drummond to go back, she can. and we're going to go back to our externalities for your next little activity. So Ms. Drummond's going to pass out just a piece of blank paper, just white printer paper to all of you. There are some colored pencils that are handy. And let me find my little file here. Oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh. Let's see here. Okay, that's not it. Here we go. All right, so this is the assignment that you guys are going to be working on, and she also has a copy of this. So you're all going to get a piece of just plain printer paper, and you are going to draw and color one thing that you have purchased in the last week other than a hamburger, and describe 4 externalized costs of producing that product. The best drawings and explanations will hang outside of the classroom of our door for all to see. And actually, you know what? I'm going to add something in there. I want you to write the internal cost. So what for external costs? Oh, look, I'm changing the assignment right now. 2, we'll just write at the bottom. 2 internal costs of your purchase. Now, I would make your drawing nice and neat and big, and you can, because you are going to describe, so we're not just going to list. You're going to write what it is, and then you're going to have a sentence or so to describe how it was the external and internal cost. And you're going to make your picture nice and big, and I would just put little like dashes off of it or little lines, and putting your external and internal costs all around it. So that is what you are going to work on right now. I can't wait to see these on Monday. I'm super excited. I hope you're super creative. And I hope you have a fabulous weekend. And if you have any questions, you can send me a remind. And go Gators.